It's been a year since Tessa Jowell died of brain cancer, but her campaign work is continuing. Today, the government announced a technique that was developed at King's College Hospital will be made available across the country. It is a drink that shows exactly where the brain tumour is, so surgeons can target it without damaging healthy parts of the brain. Our political correspondent Simon Harris on the politician's legacy that will help thousands of patients.
Brain surgery is always a matter of life or death. It's never without risk. But in this operating theatre at King's College Hospital in South London, the clinical team has been given a helping hand. The patient has a brain tumour, and thanks to a simple drink taken a few hours earlier, it shows up pink under ultraviolet light. That is potentially life-saving.
First of all, it means that we can clearly distinguish brain from brain tumour, which is actually more difficult than it seems. Secondly, we can ensure that we take out all of the dye that fluoresces, which means that we've taken out all of the tumour.
The rollout of the so-called pink drink, 5-ALA, is part of a commitment made by ministers after a remarkable speech in the House of Lords by Baroness Jowell.
Well together.
Tessa Jowell had been diagnosed with an incurable brain tumour, but spent her final months campaigning for better treatment. Yesterday was the first anniversary of her death, and her daughter Jess talked to ITV News today about how 5-ALA is part of the Tessa Jowell legacy.
She'd be delighted. She'd be so, she would, but she would also be saying, what next? There's so much more to do, and that's how I feel. This is a really brilliant step, but my God, there's so much more to do to make sure that all cancer patients have access to the best possible care and treatment that's out there.
Philip Scard was diagnosed with brain cancer 4 years ago. At home in Twickenham, he shows me a model of his skull.
This whole section was removed.
He's had surgery, radiotherapy and chemotherapy, and is prepared to try any new treatment.
Anything would be fantastic. I mean, this is such a devastating disease. And there's really no cure. Very few people survive it. We kind of dream of a cure, especially people like me, and it can't come soon enough.
Without a cure, Philip knows his tumour could become more aggressive. In his case, surgery to remove it is not an option. But 2,000 other patients could benefit every year from the pink drink. Simon Harris, ITV News.
Today we got more details about just how much has been going wrong with the delayed Crossrail line. In front of MPs, its bosses, past and present, gave their accounts of the problems, admitting that they've had to pay tens of millions of pounds to fix substandard work. Our political correspondent Simon Harris is here. Tell us more.
Nina, bit by bit we're learning just how much of a mess this project is in, and today MPs on the Public Accounts Committee managed to extract a few more nuggets. Tottenham Court Road station, the most advanced of the 10 new stations, won't be finished until August, possibly September. Bond Street, the most problematic, is probably 2 years away from being finished. And even Canary Wharf, which was built separately by the Canary Wharf Group and supposedly finished in 2015, needed another 80 million lavished on it to bring it up to scratch.
Canary Wharf Group built it, and we've actually spent nearly £80 million changing the equipment at Canary Wharf to make it the equivalent safety standards that are required for a London Underground station.
Lots of details on the problems then. Are we any closer to finding out who is to blame for all of this?
That's precisely the question asked by Conservative MP Lee Rowley to the deposed chairman of Crossrail, Sir Terry Morgan.
Who is responsible for this failure?
What you want is a name. I can tell what you want.
Yep.
There is no name. This is a hugely complex project, and it's inappropriate to think you can name somebody to be ultimately responsible for this.
And of course, we still don't know when the central section of Crossrail will open, hopefully before the end of March 2021, but there are no guarantees. It's already £2 billion over budget, and no guarantees that it won't cost even more.
Simon, thank you.
Now, this time next week, polling booths across the capital will be open for Londoners to vote in the European elections. Elections we didn't think we'd even be having just a few months ago. Unsurprisingly, the main thing on the campaign agenda is Brexit. So just what impact will indecision in Westminster have when it comes to the results in the capital? Our political correspondent Simon Harris has been speaking to the candidates.
They should have been on the endangered species list, but far from facing extinction, London's MEPs have been given a lifeline thanks to the election that was never meant to be. Labour's Claude Moraes has been a London MEP for 20 years. He's in no doubt who Labour's enemy is in this election, and it's not the Conservatives.
Do you want Nigel Farage to represent you, or do you want the Labour Party to beat the Brexit Party? It's a two-horse race, essentially.
Is Labour a Remain party or a Leave party?
Labour is a party that will offer a referendum if we can't get a decent deal, and believe me, we're not getting a decent deal as we see it at the moment.
Nigel Farage's new Brexit party is the big unknown. It's less than 6 months old.
We have to light a fire under the government to make sure, and Parliament, I have to emphasise government and Parliament, to make sure the MPs deliver on what the popular vote is.
The Conservatives probably have most to fear from the Brexit party, and Tory candidate Joy Morrissey knows who she blames: MPs in her own party.
We have a lot of MPs that are voting Remain despite what their constituencies voted for. They're just doing whatever they feel is right rather than what the country voted for.
If just over a week from now you're elected an MEP, how surprised would you be?
I would be extremely surprised, maybe fall over, faint.
The UKIP leader Gerard Batten has been a London MEP for 15 years and is standing again despite his party's opposition to the EU. He declined our request for an interview, but has made it clear he regards the election as a referendum.
Whatever the different political parties say, it is inevitably going to come down to a vote of do you want to leave or do you want to remain?
The Lib Dems, bolstered by good results in local elections earlier this month, are hoping to become the natural home of Remain voters in London. But so too are Change UK and the Greens, and they've been unable to agree on a shared strategy.
As for the other parties, it's a shame. We wanted to work with them. It would have been a lot better if we could, because we'd be able to get more pro-European MEPs in the Parliament. But alas, those talks didn't work out. So now people need to get behind the Liberal Democrats in order to send a strong message and take the fight to Nigel Farage.
Change UK offers the chance to reform our political system, to occupy the middle ground, the common sense middle ground of politics, and also to do the best for London, because Londoners will be poorer with any version of Brexit.
We have returned a Green MEP for the last 20 years. London has always re-elected Greens, and we've got no reason to see why that should change.
Whoever London voters choose, there is one question none of them can answer: how long will their job last?
And here is a list then of the parties and independent candidates standing in the European Parliament elections. Voting opens at 7 a.m. next Thursday. Let's return to Simon now. He's in our Westminster studio ahead of the Late Debate programme tonight. Simon, as well as the European elections, the future of a former London mayor is on the agenda tonight.
Yes, Charlene, Boris Johnson has finally confirmed what we've always known. He still wants to be Prime Minister and plans to enter the leadership race when Mrs May finally stands down. She's expected to set out her departure timetable next month, and on the Late Debate, we'll be discussing the former mayor's chances.
He was a pretty bad mayor of London, and the appalling Garden Bridge proposal where he wanted to favour his friends and cost Londoners a fortune.
I think it's very important we have someone who actually gives leadership, who doesn't fall off to drift off to the left as the Labour Party has done, but is prepared to stand up.
We'll also talk to the Essex MP who chairs the Commons Education Committee about the possible link between knife crime and pupils excluded from school. That's the Late Debate here on ITV at 11:15. Charlie.
And we shall be watching. Simon, thanks very much.